Welcome to the Doo Divas Smells Like Money podcast. I'm your host, Suzan Chin-Taylor, CEO and founder of Creative Raven, the firm that helps wastewater industry contractors and manufacturers unlock the power of digital marketing, AI, and PR to boost sales and opportunities. Whether it's through our online marketing and lead generation programs or providing a fully outsourced marketing department, we are passionate about helping businesses in the wastewater and civil infrastructure sectors not just survive, but thrive in today's digital world. Each episode, I'll be bringing you expert tips and strategies to help you grow and succeed. Let's dive in. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Doo Divas Smells Like Money podcast. Today, we are visiting with Michael Ramos, who is the inventor and co-founder of NOAA System. Now, this is a really intriguing little device, and I don't want to do a spoiler alert, but I will head it off that we probably all remember the horrible disaster in Flint and the issues with lead in the water. And so it's because of these types of issues that what Michael brought to the forefront has been invented to solve. And so that's that little, not too much of a spoiler alert. And so, Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. It's good to see you again. I'm excited to be here. Really excited.
Thank you. So just to put things in context, I'd like you to tell our audience a little bit about your background, because you have a very interesting background as an engineer and how you wound up working within this segment of our industry.
Yeah, so I'm a Chicago native, born and raised in Chicago. I've been working for Chicago Public Schools for over 30 years in facilities. I've been an engineer for over 30 years. My most recent title is a hub chief engineer, which means I'm responsible for 7 schools throughout the city of Chicago, meaning I have engineers in each of the 7 schools, but I oversee each of those 7 engineers. And our main function is to make sure that our schools are heated, they're dry, they're safe spaces for our students to come and learn. So if I would say, like, one of the, we always find inspiration to do different things or to get involved in something and take action. One of the things that got me off the couch, it got me really thinking initially, and then taking action, was I was watching the congressional hearing on the Flint water crisis back in 2016. And a member of Congress asked the head of the EPA at the time, Gina McCarthy, how big of a problem is lead exposure throughout the country? And her response was, quote, "It's one of the biggest challenges we face." So that told me initially, I'm watching the congressional hearing just as a spectator. Okay, well, I want to know more about what's happening in Flint. But when she made that statement, there's a lot that you could take away from that statement. That means that the lead problem goes beyond Flint. Then I started looking into it a little bit. I'm like, wait a minute. As a father and as a grandfather, I'm very concerned. Are my babies exposed to lead? So I have my nephew, autistic, my niece is autistic, and I have two autistic grandchildren, all from the Chicago area. So then I started hearing, like, Noah's actually named after my autistic nephew. So I started realizing before 2016, I didn't know how bad lead was. I knew lead was bad, but I didn't know how bad it was.
Right.
So then after she said that, they put a slide to show, like, the impact, even at low levels, the impact and permanent irreversible brain damage that it does to children got me involved. I'm like, wait a minute. Like I said, I have children, grandchildren, nieces and nephews. So it started as kind of like an inspiration for me to do whatever I can for my children, my mom, my dad, make sure that everyone in my family is taken care of. So I started working on some stuff. I'm like, okay, bottled water is out of the question. I've tried bottled water in my house. When you have kids, there's always water for them, never water to cook with, never water to make coffee with. It's a challenge. Pitcher filters, same thing. Under sink filters, all of those things, to me, I see as reactionary. We're not really getting to the root of the problem.
Right.
The root of the problem and the symptoms are all the same no matter where we work. I've done work in Utah. I've done work in Michigan, Minnesota. Symptoms are all the same. Aging infrastructure and stagnant water. The longer the water sits in a pipe, the more likely you're going to have elevated lead or copper levels, period. So I started thinking, what could I do to prevent stagnation in my house to prevent my pipes from rusting even more than they already are. My pipes are over 40 years old. They're rusting from the inside. And one of the main things that I think one of the main challenges is why lead in drinking water kind of like gets overlooked is you can't taste it, you can't see it, and you can't smell it, but it's there, right? So testing is very important. People need to test their homes and they need to make sure that their schools are tested because you have no idea if you or your children are being exposed. And by the time you find out, it might be too late. So initially, I started working on my house. I came up with a device to flush my main, to make sure that my main was flushed. And what I was actually doing was not only filling my main with fresh, clean water, but I was actually coating the inside of the pipe with the corrosion control that they put in at the treatment plant. Here in Chicago, we use orthophosphate, but that orthophosphate has a shelf life. So if it's allowed to sit inside that pipe for longer than 6 hours, it begins to break down. Now your water is coming into contact with metals again. So my concept is if I stay ahead of the stagnation, take advantage of the orthophosphate that's there that they're putting in at the treatment plant. I'm paying for it on my bill anyway. Let's make it as effective as possible, right? The only way to do that is keep that water moving ahead of that 6 hour stagnation time. And eventually what's happening is we're actually putting a brand new liner inside of an aging infrastructure so water never comes into contact with metals. So that was my first concept, build it at home.
Wow. So I want to dive in because it was something, when we first met and you started telling me about this, it was kind of a shocking fact that in regards to the schools and the homes, let's just take, your hometown of Chicago, that, all right, what would it take if we had to replace all of the lead lines? Like how many, how long, and I want you to tell the audiences how long it would take if we were to replace it, all of it.
So Chicago has more lead service lines than any other city in the country. It's over 400,000 lead service lines. To replace it in an ideal situation, about 100 years. And it's over $8 billion.
So there has to be, so this is what I guess prompted you to say, all right, well, that's not going to happen. So we need to do something. So tell me, you started to, you did this for your house, but in the configuration now, I know that you've told me it evolved from that first thing you developed onto your house to make it a commercially viable product. So then you started to roll it out into the schools on, if I remember correctly, into the water fountains that the kids use to fill, either drink from or fill their hydration bottles. So tell us a little bit about that. And without giving away proprietary information, your secret sauce, actually how this works and how easy it is to deploy and what's involved for people that might be interested on a commercial level of doing something like this in their facilities.
Sure. So a lot was going on in 2016, right? With the Flint water crisis, me trying to address it at home. Chicago was pretty much not even doing any testing in their schools at that time. But once that Flint story hit the market, Chicago Public Schools started saying, wait a minute, we need to start testing our schools. So they started testing the schools, and they quickly found out that a lot of schools have elevated lead levels. Mm-hmm. And at the time, the action level was 15 parts of anything above 15, they had to remediate. Anything below 15, they left it in service, which means we know that no amount of lead is safe, but the EPA sets that 15, part per billion threshold. So I would go to the meetings, and realize that this is a huge, huge challenge that we have to fix, and we have to address it like immediately because children are being exposed every day. So they would say at the meetings, we had the heads of the Illinois Department of Public Health, the heads from the Water Department, the heads from CPS. And what they came up with was we need to manually flush out our drinking fountains every Monday morning for a minute before the children arrive for school. I'm like, okay, what about filters? We can't use filters. CPS doesn't like filters because of the heat during the summer months when the schools are shut down. Those filter canisters can become breeding grounds for bacteria, and then it creates a whole nother set of problems. Mm-hmm. Reverse osmosis is not practical. You can't replace all the pipes in the school. That's another $8 billion price tag. And it's just impossible for us to ever be able to do it. Even if we wanted to, schools are operated pretty much 12 months out of the year. And in order to do a full pipe replacement in a building, you need that building to be vacant because it's a big environmental challenge when you start opening up walls with asbestos. And so all those things were just not practical. So manually flushing out just on a Monday morning, I started thinking to myself, like, wow, is that really gonna help prevent children from being exposed? I'm like, that's impossible. There's just no way that that's going to be enough if we're just going around doing it for a minute, just on a Monday morning. So going to engineers meetings, I'd hear the engineers say, you know what? I don't have time to do it. It's just not getting done. So on a massive scale, even though CPS made this mandatory for engineers to do it, there was no way to track it. There was no way to hold guys accountable if it was getting done or not. I knew, as being one of the engineers, one of the guys that's actually out in the field that works in these schools every day, I knew it wasn't getting done. And I knew that the children, I would see them coming in from recess, from gym, going straight to the drinking fountains and drinking from these drinking fountains. So I'm like, okay, well, I created one for my house. Here we are in 2016. We automate everything. My background is building automation. I'm just going to take what I made at home, tweak it out a little bit, and make it a retrofit to go into existing drinking fountains. And then it's going to automatically flush out those drinking fountains throughout the day. Every so many hours, we're going to simulate usage. We're going to coat all these old pipes inside the building. We're going to keep those pipes full of fresh, clean water so that the kids will not be exposed. So the first one I created was in October of 2016. Put it in a building that was built in the 1940s, had a lot of original galvanized piping, lead levels throughout the building. I put my first one in there, and I took a drinking fountain that had lead in it, lead readings, students would never drink from, took it to non-detection. So it actually worked out better than I thought it was going to work initially. But then we started rolling it out, and it was just like the results were just, we took this old building that no one drank from, stagnant water everywhere, dead legs everywhere. We put this system in. Kids loved it. Kids started putting tags above the drinking fountain saying, hey, bring your reusable bottles to school, because now we have a system and we have fresh, clean water in our school.
Wow. Wow. So where do you see, this, how are you going to make this available? I see this as something that perhaps, plumbers or any building maintenance person could offer to their customers as an add-on to install. And then let's talk a little bit about, ongoing maintenance for this. If you choose to, everybody worries about that. Okay, yeah, if I'm going to spend X amount of dollars, how often do I have to maintain it? And what are the maintenance costs involved to keep this thing working, to keep the lead out, or get the lead out, so to speak?
Yes. Yeah. So one of the things, as an engineer that I look for when I'm looking to make a big purchase, whether it's tools or equipment for
Right.
my guys, it's like, I want the most effective tool at the right price, and it's quality and reliable. So those are the things that went into, like, when I built NOAA, I'm like, okay, I'm building this not just for me, but I'm building it from an engineer standpoint. As an engineer, this is what I would like to have available for me and my crew to use as a tool to remediate lead. So I try to create it as simple as possible. There's no filters, no strainers, no clocks to program. It does everything automatically by itself. It requires absolutely no maintenance. And I could say that I've had a lot of devices installed since 2016, and they're still working today with zero maintenance whatsoever.
So this is not just for drinking fountains. It can be put on any faucet or tap. Am I understanding this right?
Yes, it could go underneath your kitchen sink. It could go into ice machines. We do chemistry labs, kindergarten, like daycare centers, all kinds of stuff. It's pretty versatile.
What about, because I always think about this, that you worry about the lead in the water when, you're drinking it. But when we're standing under a hot shower and our pores are open because of the heat of the hot shower, I would have to think that we're going to absorb some of that water that is, or whatever's in that water that's coming down over us, or that we're bathing our kids in. So is this something that can be put on a shower head?
Yeah.
Or you hadn't thought about that yet? Or is it something that would then, in that case, you would have to do that in internal plumbing behind the scene that feeds the shower?
Correct.
Okay.
Because where we place it inside of a home, we put it like strategically. And our main focus is, like, we make sure that we target underneath the kitchen sink, because that's predominantly where the family eats from, drinks from. So we try to make sure that we put it underneath the kitchen sink so that we're servicing everything from the main that runs all the way underneath the house and takes care of that whole pipe running up to your kitchen sink. And then, in a sense, it's coating your lead service line to make sure that that's coated, and then it's coating everything else in the house in between. Showers.
So you wouldn't have to worry, since it's there. That's what I was trying to say. You wouldn't have to worry about additional sinks like your bathrooms.
Right. Correct.
Okay. So one device can take care of basically the entire property.
Yes. Because we're taking care of your main. That's where your main problem comes from. There's still other issues inside the house too, with joints or old piping. But your main thing that we're focusing on is that service line coming in. It's definitely, we know, is made out of lead. We want to make sure that that's completely encapsulated. So having it underneath your kitchen sink is extremely crucial, and it works very well.
Wow. So for anybody listening, I mean, this is fascinating. I think, you've come up with something that's very needed, and it's, it is high tech with all of the automation, but it seems like it's just a very simple solution to a very big problem that's affordable and accessible. And so when we talk about
Correct.
accessible, how, if somebody wants to purchase this for their home, or if they're a commercial entity or a municipality or like a public entity like the schools, how can they acquire this product? And also, I wanted to ask, how hard is it to install? And do you need a professional engineer or contractor or technical person to do this? Or is this something that you can DIY it? What do you recommend in that?
I think most homeowners could DIY it, but when we start getting into school settings, plumbers can do it, but I believe the average engineer would be able to install it. It's pretty simple. Look, so I have one here
You
that I
got
could
it
show
there.
you.
So for those of you who are watching it, Michael is, you can see that, but for those of you only listening in, he's holding up this really cool box. So, wow.
Yeah, so it's very lightweight, right? It's low voltage. It operates off just like your cell phone. It has a quick connect fitting that you plug it here. It takes the waters from your supply, your water shut off.
Right?
You shut your water off. We supply with another angle stop that has a quick connect fitting. Your tube goes into here, comes out of the other side, and then we route it directly out of the bubbler from a drinking fountain. So it's actually simulating water usage directly through the bubbler. So we're coating everything inside of that drinking fountain and the entire pipe going all the way back to the main in the building.
Wow. And
Yes.
so that the name of that chemical you were mentioning earlier. So this basically helps to keep whatever that chemical is doing, it keeps it activated. If I'm understanding.
Yes, we correct. We make sure that all the corrosion control efforts that they do at the treatment plant, we make sure that those efforts that they put in there, and they do a great job treating water at the treatment plant. When it leaves the treatment plant, that water is in excellent condition. We just deliver it at every tap by using this device.
Oh, excellent. So getting back to, I'm circling back that how can you get it? How can you
Yeah,
buy
you
this?
can visit noahsystem.co. They're $3.95 a piece. But of course, schools, if they order like bigger numbers, we work on pricing, the more quantity you order. Um, and it's the same thing with licensing deals. If there's plumbers out there that could see offering this to a lot of their municipalities, because a lot of school districts, they're still struggling to come up with solutions. Like every day, New York, New Jersey, Maryland, all these states and all these, different cities, they're always in the news saying, hey, we have trouble solving this problem. So we shut the drinking fountains off, the schools are on bottled water. And I just wish that I would have the correct contact to call the decision maker and say, look, we would love to come over there to New York. We would love to come to your school district and do a demonstration. You don't have to take my word for it. We'll put some of these devices in, test them yourself.
Well,
And if they perform, we could talk.
excellent. So a nice pilot program. So how can someone get, you gave us the website. How can someone get in touch with you about this and to discuss further how they might test it and what their best next steps should be? Because it sounds like, with your engineering background, you probably have a lot of wisdom to share on how people can approach this particular issue using this device. What's the best way to get in touch with you, Michael?
Sure, I would love that. You could reach me at michael@noahsystem.co. That's my email. Or you could call me directly at 773-556-5266.
Excellent. And you're also on LinkedIn, and that information
Yes.
will be in the show notes. That's how we met. And I'm so glad that, we stumbled upon each other and found each other this way, because I think, new devices like this being brought out to solve such a it is a scary problem, and it's a health impact problem. And so,
Sure.
listeners, I hope you got something out of this, that you'll reach out to Michael if this is something that's on your radar that you're dealing with. And maybe even, just thinking about it, if you own a home that maybe it wouldn't hurt. I mean, that kind of scared me that I'm in a newer home, but perhaps I should test my lines. Just
Oh, yeah.
water that I'm drinking and using. Like, we buy bottled water here, but we still use some things out of the tap, and we have an RO system. But like you were saying, those systems aren't perfect, and the parts per million may be higher than what the EPA determines as safe. And what you were saying is zero, not
Yes.
even the 15 or less. You got it down to zero, which is
Yes.
really, really amazing. And so, Michael, I want to thank you for sharing your time with us, coming onto the show to really make the market aware of this solution. And, I hope that the show brings a plethora of customers knocking on your door. And I look forward to hearing about this being installed in just everywhere. So again, thank
Yeah,
you.
that's my goal.
That's your goal. And thank you, audience, for tuning in. And until next time, keep it flowing. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. If you're ready to take your marketing to the next level and start increasing sales and opportunities for your business, reach out to us at Creative Raven. We're here to help you thrive in the digital landscape. Visit creativeraven.com or click the link in the show notes below to schedule a call and learn how we can support your growth. If you enjoyed the insights on today's episode, be sure to hit subscribe so you'll never miss an update. Until next time, keep growing and keep it flowing.